If a stranger in a coffee shop asked you, "When has God shown up in your life?" you might find the question a little odd. But if you paused, chances are you'd have a story to tell. At St. Mark's, we believe God is at work everywhere, and everyone has a God encounter story. Inspired by StoryCorps, this Lent we're introducing GodCorps, an opportunity to record a short interview and share an experience of God at work in your life. We'd love to hear your story.
Okay, we're going to be official now.
Okay.
I'm Jen Beal, and I'm sitting here with Jan Burrell. And I wanted you to tell me a story of when God showed up in your life, or a time when maybe God spoke to you.
Well, I'm not sure this was God speaking or just friends speaking to me when I was in first grade.
Okay.
And at that point in my life, I had never been to church. My parents didn't go, and we'd been living out in Wyoming on a farm for a couple of those years, and there was, of course, no church close by or anything. And we moved so many times that we never got really settled in one place at that point. I'm talking about the depths of the Depression time.
Yes.
Because I was born in the end of 1931, which was, I think, financially the worst year of that whole situation. And so I go to first grade, and in fact, I didn't go to I went to half a year of kindergarten, and we were in Clinton, Iowa, moved back to Rock Island, and there was no kindergarten unless you went to a private school. And I loved school, so I'm going to first grade then finally, and I'm 5.5. And then I find out that my friends that I sort of, around my neighborhood that I sort of got acquainted with, went to Sunday school. And so I don't know, it was because I knew that I love school so much, and I just knew if there's a school on Sunday,
You wanted to keep
I
going.
want to go. And so I went home and told my mom about that, and she says, she sort of pointed up the street and says, well, there's a church about 4 or 5 blocks up the street, so if you want to go, you can go. And I don't know if she ever went with me. I just walked there myself, because it was on my way to school, and I went by it most mornings. And so I ended up going there, and of course I was a person that loved to draw even at a very early age, and so we used to draw illustrations for the Bible stories. And so this was right up to things I loved to do.
Okay.
And then we used to do, I don't know if they've ever done them in the Sunday school here or other places, we used to do like what they call flannel boards.
Yes. Oh, I love flannel boards.
Have you ever heard of those?
We did a lot of flannel
And so I would
board, yeah.
I was making
Over the
flannel
years.
boards to go with the story. You know, me and the other kids in my class were making the flannel boards for that. But we only lived there. And then we moved again, I think when I was in 3rd grade. And I think I went back there again, but I didn't go as often because it was quite much further distance. And there was a period of time around then when we didn't even own a car. If you wanted to go any place, you either walked or had to take a bus.
Okay.
And so anyway, I always seems like I went to church wherever my friends went. And the only time I had a problem with that, I don't know if I ought to bring this up or not, but when I was in the 6th grade, we had just moved again to Davenport, Iowa. And my friend, one of my classmates, lived about 4 houses up the street from me, and so she said I could go to church with her, and I think we walked. And so I says, fine. And then I found out it was the Christian Science Church. Mm-hmm. And of course, my grandmother, who was a devout Lutheran out in Nebraska, she and I wrote letters back and forth. And I remember writing with telling her I was going to the Christian Science Church. Wow. And so then I got a letter back from her saying, there are better choices. And as it turned out, this girl moved. So then I ended up going to the Presbyterian Church.
Okay.
And later on, I had never been baptized. And when I went to start going to confirmation classes when I was in 8th grade, and found out that I was one of the few that had never been baptized before. So I ended up being baptized and confirmed in the Presbyterian Church in 8th grade.
Okay.
So anyway, take a break here, and any more questions?
Yeah, any more questions? I think that's a fascinating beginning. what
It's
about
different than most people have.
That's okay. That's why we're here, because everyone has a different story. I mean, I think maybe you covered a little bit the story of a turning point in your life and how God was involved. That sounds like a big turning
I've
point.
had a lot of turning points in my life.
Yeah, do you want to tell us about it?
Well, I'm trying to think which one to pick.
Okay.
Let me think.
We
about
still
this.
have plenty of time. We have
Yeah.
7 minutes left.
Well, I ended up, I think, in high school. We moved. Let's see. We didn't live in Davenport anymore. When I was going after ninth grade, we moved back to Rock Island. In fact, I think I moved 16 times or maybe more between the time I was born and by the time I was out of college.
Oh, wow. Sure.
So I got to see a little of
In and out of the
everything.
dorms, yeah.
But I think in high school I was going to Congregational Church with some friends, and it wasn't like Sunday school. And I can remember going to some young people's groups and that type of thing, and that was sort of nice. So that, but I don't know if I really had. Of course, I'd been in the confirmation of the Presbyterian Church, so I guess I learned quite a bit there. But I don't know if I don't remember the differences that might have been in some of these different churches I went to. But I got to see a little bit of everything. And then I had friends who were Catholic, so occasionally I went to church with a few of them. And then when I went away, I went to college. I started out at Augustana College, which is a Lutheran school. And one thing, I don't think they do this kind of thing anymore, but between second hour and third hour, we had about a 20-minute period there, and you were required to go to chapel. I don't ever heard of any schools doing that since that time.
Yeah. This is Augustana College in Rock Island.
Yeah, college in
Not
Rock
South
Island,
Dakota.
Augustana
Okay,
College.
okay.
It's was a school of maybe 1,000 kids or something like that at that time, and it was probably the best one I went to. Later on I transferred, but it was a great school. I think I learned more there than any other class, any other classes. And my English teacher especially was wonderful. And but I remember going to that, and you had an assigned seat in the chapel, and it needed to be full, because if it wasn't full, they might call you in and ask you why not. And I know when you were a freshman or a sophomore, you had to go Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I don't think they had room for everybody in there. And then on Tuesday and Thursday, the juniors and seniors had to be there. And there was a few of the different types of ones that actually used to pay somebody to sit in their seat.
Oh.
Can you believe that? I got some wild stories
Probably
about
shouldn't laugh too loudly
things
about
there.
that.
But, I
Oh,
don't
that's
know.
so funny.
And my parents weren't really going. They'd go to once in a while something I was involved in or something, but not really otherwise. And my dad had been brought up a very, strong Lutheran. And I think the reason my mother didn't go was because I came from an Irish side of that side and family. And my grandfather, he was a sort of a guy that did a lot of thinking for himself very strongly. And I don't know if he had some kind of a disagreement with the priest or what, but he'd quit going.
Okay.
To church, and my grandmother went on her own for a while and sort of gave up after a while. And my mother was baptized, actually, because they thought she was going to die of pneumonia when she was a couple months old.
Oh.
And I guess the relatives insisted.
Yeah.
But she was baptized, and all the other she was the youngest of 4 kids,
Okay.
and all the other ones had all been baptized, but most of them at that point weren't going to church either. So I've had a rather mixed up background.
Well, it just sounds like a very full and varied background.
Well,
You
it
collected a
goes
lot of
on.
perspectives. Yeah. Why did you decide to keep going to church? I mean, sounds like you were
Well,
going after you moved out of your parents' home.
I don't know. I just felt the need to go. And I also enjoyed going, and of course I went partly because of friends and all that type of thing. And I
Okay.
guess I learned a few things while I was going.
Okay.
And that type of thing. And I would say I always had a belief in God. I believe my parents all had a belief in God. They just didn't think they needed to go to church.
Yeah. Okay, and then I need to ask, and you don't have to give me the exact date, but I understand that you've been coming to St. Mark's for quite some time.
I've been coming here since the end of 1973. And I've got a lot more little adventures in
I
between
love that. Yes.
Augustana and now.
Okay.
I could tell between Augustana and coming to St. Mark's.
Okay.
But
I think that maybe that'll be our part 2, but can you tell
Okay,
me about
yeah.
how you ended up at St. Mark's?
well, I was married in 1956, and I was divorced about 14 years later. My first husband decided he liked somebody else better. And actually, at the time, I thought that was sort of tragic. But as it turned out, 2.5 years later, I got remarried myself, and it was a much better choice than my first one.
Okay.
So I was really, in some ways, later on grateful that he found somebody else. And my second husband, Ken Burrell, he was an Episcopalian.
Okay.
And in fact, I had been, while I was divorced, because I'd have to go back to when I was going to the Catholic Church regularly. And while I was divorced, I started going to the Episcopalian Church. I wouldn't say I went regularly, but I was going. It seemed like a good choice for someone who'd been growing up as a, not a Catholic, and then doing that together that way. And so when I met him, it seemed natural that when he was from this area, he was from just a little bit north of Geneva here, and up in Fox River Grove, I believe,
Okay.
that far away. And so we came here, and I ended up with teaching here in Geneva. I got a story about that I could tell too.
Okay. Yep.
I don't know. You
Part
want that?
3?
Yeah, part 3. But it was sort of maybe God spoke to me in that little thing too when
Yeah.
I got my job here.
Yeah.
And I'm a person who doesn't like to sit and do nothing, so this is how I get in trouble sometimes.
Okay.
I always have to be thinking about something or doing something.
Okay. And actually, Jan, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize we have just 30 seconds left for this part 1.
Oh my gosh, I didn't really. Oh, this is still part 1.
This is
Okay.
still part 1, but I have to say, when you said that he found somebody else, or you were glad
Yeah.
he found somebody else, you were talking about your first husband,
Yes.
but I was thinking that you were talking about God and how he found someone else for you.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking, you know what, that had occurred to me because I found him because of a snowstorm.
Okay.
In fact, I've written a chapter in my book about,
Okay.
a snowstorm that way.
All right.
I put a snowstorm can change your life for the title of that one.
Okay. Oh, I love it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of St. Mark's Episcopal Church, GodCore. If you would like to record one of these episodes and tell your story about how you've experienced God, please use the link in the notes to schedule your time. We look forward to hearing your story, and we hope that you continue to tune in to hear ours. Thank you, and God bless you.